is just not my favorite bumper music right there. It feels like it takes so long to get to where we want to go.
Yeah.
All right. I am not Patient the poet. I don't even know if our guest is Patient the poet. Our guest is Humble the poet.
Yes, he is.
Humble the poet on the phone. And he is a rapper, a spoken word artist. Do I have all my buttons pushed here? A poet? Did I say that twice?
Yes.
A former elementary school teacher, a blogger, and an internationally best-selling author. In fact, his book that we're going to talk about is called UnLearn. It's currently #1 on Amazon. It's got 5-star reviews, 128 people. Let me look and see if I'm getting this right here. Yeah, they're giving it 5 stars. All right, Humble the poet. What a great name, by the way. Good morning, Humble. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Where are you?
I am in Brooklyn right now.
In Brooklyn?
Yeah.
I'm going to get back to Brooklyn, Robin. I miss it. We got to get back. Robin's going to go up there in June.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. I mean, it's kind of challenging finding a quiet place to speak in Brooklyn, but I think I managed it.
Yeah, did you live there? Did you grow up there?
Oh, no, I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. I'm actually out here doing more press.
Is that right? Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. By the way, you have a beard, and I wanted to mention it. Robin told me your publicist wanted me to mention it, actually.
I like it.
But I mean, see, I grew a beard for the first time last month, but it's gone already. And it doesn't look anywhere near as cool as yours does. You got a cool looking profile too. That's your logo, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have a first edition beard, so I think it's a little bit easier for me to manage. I know a lot of people, I pretty much grew this beard since I was a teenager. So I had about maybe 2 years of just looking like an awkward, Splinter, Ninja Turtle rat. And then after that, the handsomeness came out after the beard, and it's light and fluffy and soft. And I know most guys are like, I try to grow a beard and it keeps itching. And I was like, it's because you kept shaving in the beginning. So for me, this is the perfect beard on my face.
Oh, awesome. So tell me about the book. It's called UnLearn. I think I need to unlearn a few things. What should I unlearn?
I think we all need to unlearn. I think we all need to unlearn a lot of expectations we have from life. I think we don't realize how much, watching Disney movies and TV and, hearing certain stories growing up really ill-prepared us for what life really is. And we have to let go of certain expectations, whether it be things like we should avoid failure, we should avoid heartbreak, life's going to be fair, you can be happy all the time. You can live happily ever after. I think these are a lot of ideas that, really impact how we feel about life, because, we don't feel good when the image in our head doesn't match the image in front of us.
So what do you replace it with? If you unlearn failure or fear of failure, what do you replace it with? Or do you replace it with anything?
I mean, you leave it open to kind of absorb what life has. I mean, so for me, I realize that failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is what we pave the road to success.
Right.
With.
Oh my gosh, I certainly agree with that. That's really good stuff. I wish everybody would learn that. That's the best lesson ever. Because whatever your passion is driving you to become, you are going to face a lot of things that just don't work out, right?
Yeah, and that's okay, because that's how we learn. We only learn when things don't go our way. And if you're doing a science experiment, you rely on what other people call failure to know which direction to head. You try something doesn't work, you keep trying something else, and you don't let it get down. Every time something doesn't work out, that's a success, because it's one less thing to worry about.
And you really ingrain positiveness into everyone, especially women. I mean, gosh, we were told you released your first single, Hair, and that celebrates women in every way, in all different shapes and sizes and different walks of life. And you say that this is us. We should be proud of who we are.
Completely, yeah. So Hair, I was celebrating. The story is about an ex of my life who had just the most beautiful hair, and saying that even though when she got on my last nerves, I still loved the way her hair felt. We shot a beautiful music video in the city of Toronto, because Toronto is one of the most diverse places on earth, and we had girls of all different shapes, sizes, ethnicities, styles, abilities as well, and we just celebrated them all in the music video. And I had them perform the song, and I actually took a step back, and I was just a character in the music video while pretty much they did the work and made me look good.
That sounds really good. I have a question to ask you about that, what you just said. When we tried to make women feel that don't worry about the way you look because you're fine and you're putting too much into it, and you think about the fact that men don't really put that same kind of pressure on themselves. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, obviously, we want to look good, but women, it's really a bigger deal for them. And why do you think that is? And is there anything we can do to undo whatever the problems we've caused?
I mean, we can go back into history, and I think a lot of it has to do with, going all the way back, even, as long as history's been recorded. I think a lot of it had to do with the divide. Once upon a time, we were hunter-gatherers, and, men hunted, women gathered, and it was a very important relationship, and everybody played their part. And I think the moment we started building these civilizations and focusing a lot more on farming and agriculture, the roles skewed towards, physical fitness or what have you. And then all of a sudden, when you got two different groups of people, there's always going to be some sort of hierarchy. And I think that was the old days, and that kind of created this idea that, one has to live for the other. But now, with technology, with access to education, the pendulum is swinging back towards the center. And, I think it's about always, reminding women that, hey, it's you don't need a man's validation to see your power. You've always had it. We don't need to put you on a pedestal. You've always been sitting on a throne.
You talk about embracing our mortality and about putting ourselves first, and don't expect others to put us first.
Yeah, completely. I think, the idea of putting ourselves first is, we've been shamed and guilty to think that makes us selfish, but it's really about, when you're in an airplane during an emergency, they continually tell you, put on your oxygen mask first, so then you're in a position to help other people. And I think very often, for us to feel significant, we kind of develop this martyr syndrome where we're like, oh, I can't take care of myself because I'm too busy taking care of everybody else. But that's at an expense of ourselves. And I think what needs to happen is we need to take care of ourselves. We need to become a source of love instead of simply trying to receive love from everybody else. And once we're our own source of love and our own source of happiness, we can take the overflow and share that with other people. Love is a gift that we give. It's not a loan. And right now, so often we're giving out love hoping to get it in return, when really we should be giving out love because we have so much of it in our lives.
In chapter 21 of the 101 Simple Truths is you can be whatever the F you want. Robert and I do children's songs, or at least we have in the past, and we had a song called You Can Be Whatever You Want, right? Is that what it was called?
Yes.
You Can Be Whatever You Want?
Yeah.
And we had some feedback from people who, of course, liked the idea, but some that didn't. Some that said, why are you telling children you can be whatever you want when you know that's not true? And I remember my response was, well, I didn't say you could make money at whatever you want. I just said you can be whatever. You may not end up being a professional baseball player or a rock star, but you could certainly play guitar or join a little league team or one of those. You could be playing baseball. You don't have to be a star at it. Is that along the lines of what you're saying, or is it something deeper?
I think on that level as well, but I think it's also, sometimes we kind of feel that everything is predestined for us. And oftentimes, a lot of the people that were reading this are living with chips on their shoulders for what their parents expected from them. And for me to kind of say, look, you can be whatever you want. So, I'm the child of an immigrant. My father was a cab driver, and he wanted me to have a safe, secure job. We always joke and we call that job doctor, lawyer, engineer. It's all one word. And deciding that we can be whatever we want, and we're not simply held back by what either society, whether our families, or whether media tells us what we can be. And every single day, things are changing. I'm a guy with a big beard and a turban, and I'm on the mainstream stage, and I've never seen anybody looking like me on a mainstream stage that's considered positive. And here's my opportunity now to remind people that, hey, I have a goofy smile, I'm a fun guy, and most guys that look like me are fun guys like me.
You sort of look like Cat Stevens a little bit.
I'm trying to bring back that Cat Stevens energy, and for that purpose is, the limitations that we set are the limitations we set upon ourselves. And I think anytime people want to argue this, they always look at the extreme. They're like, well, if you're 5'5", you can't dunk a ball. Well, Muggsy Bogues taught us
right.
That's
there
true.
You go. That's right.
But also the fact is, we can, do anything. And I'm not simply trying to make some pie in the sky idea here. I'm really trying to encourage people to shed some of the limitations they've placed on themselves, or limitations that have been echoed into their minds from that internal bully that sounds like our mom, our dad, that kid in grade 5 that made fun of us once, and we hold on to those all our lives. And it's really saying you can be whoever the F you want. Nobody's promising that it's going to be easy.
That's right.
You're going to have to work your butt off. And, as somebody who, grew up in a first generation immigrant household to get to the position that I'm in, I've defied the odds in so many ways. Even with this book, I published this book independently, years ago, and then it just wouldn't go away. And then it got picked up in Canada, became a bestseller, then a couple of other countries, and now I'm signed with a major publisher. And every time somebody tells me what's not done traditionally, or what isn't in the odds, I just remind them that, hey, we can all defy the odds as long as we put in the effort and the work.
Good for you. I mean, that's the clues left by so many people who have had success stories. That's why I love biographies, because you can read about people who really had nothing going for them, and next thing you know, they're the next big thing. And at the same time, we all know stories of the sons or daughters of really successful people who tried but didn't work. It didn't work out for them, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because maybe they felt the pressure to become the next John Lennon or the next Frank Sinatra. Those are the children I'm thinking of. But I think you're right. Let me ask you something. If we could do a little role playing or something, can we listen in? I'd like to hear what you would say. Are you a dad?
I am not a dad.
So let me so let me hear what you would say to a child, let's say 14, not a tiny child, just a almost coming of age young guy, and he's got his heart set on becoming, I don't know, anything. I'm trying to think of something.
A famous rapper. Let's say he wants to be a famous
rapper. Yeah, that's you. Okay, so what would you say to him if he's running into walls, he's getting rejection notes from everybody, and the kids in class don't want to give him his respect that he's hoping for? What do you say to him?
I'd remind him, I said, look, right now you're on the rainbow and you're chasing a pot of gold. And the secret, which is not really a secret, it's just what people have forgotten, is there is no pot of gold. The pot of gold is the rainbow. You need to have fun on the journey that you're having. And all the mistakes you're making are the gifts that you're receiving from this. And if you're enjoying the journey, and, I want you to pursue a life because nobody gets to live a life without problems. The problems of having problems is something we're all guaranteed, no matter how much money, fame, or success that you have. And I want you to do is I want you to think about what direction you can go where you're actually excited to solve the problems. Because the people who are enjoying life the most are living the type of lives where the problems don't scare them, they excite them, because they view the problems as challenges. And if you're writing raps right now, I want you to have fun writing raps instead of hoping that writing music is going to get you some sort of other reward. When the work is the reward, then you win. And there's so many people. This isn't a dream. There are so many people who have found a lifestyle where every single day they encounter a lot of challenges, but it's exciting to them. Whether it's a professional athlete, whether it's a mathematician or an astrophysicist. And I want to remind them that, listen, if your goal here is to feel special by getting success, it's not going to happen. And what instead I want you to realize is, life isn't going to get easier. You're going to get stronger, and you need to enjoy all the baby steps that you're making, and you can do anything you want as long as you're willing to give it everything you've got, because the only thing that you have in your control is your effort.
Since you brought up receiving gifts, you also have to be a willing giver.
1000%. We can either look at this world as something for us to use, or we can look at ourselves as something for the world to use. When we focus on being of service to the world, and that can be in any way, shape, or form. If you think of every successful business to ever exist, it's because they provided a product or service that was useful to the rest of the world. When we start to realize that we're here to be useful and not simply just to use up everything that's around us, life becomes you have a lot less friction. A lot less people get in our way when we want to help. More people get in the way when we want to help ourselves. But when we want to help others, there's a lot less people getting in our way.
We have an amazing thing that separates us from the rest of creation, and that's language. We have this ability to formulate words and affect one another with those words, positive or negative. One of the chapters in your book, I love this one. It's very, very short, but it's called Don't Infect Yourself with Negativity. Negativity. The first sentence is, negativity is a disease. Don't infect yourself. I'm dead serious. You are correct. I can't tell you, not only have I seen it in other people, but I've gone through bouts with that disease. I don't know if I'm alone. I doubt that I am, but I think we all go through it. But I think just remembering, wait a minute, this is not something that's hard to fix. You just get out of it. Just get out of that funk and stop being so negative, and you defeat it almost instantly.
Completely, and I want to add on to that movement is medicine. Sometimes if we're sitting on the couch and we're feeling low on ourselves, sometimes it's simply about getting up and going for a walk. I really want things to be pragmatic, and I don't want to just simply be philosophical. So, hey, if you're not feeling good right now, stand up, start moving, walk to the corner store, walk up and down the stairs a few times, get the blood flowing in your body, and you'll start to feel better. And it's also, when I think of negativity, if something's really going on and it's a challenge, whether you're dealing with an illness, whether you just lost your job, I'm not here to tell you to simply look on the bright side. I'm here to let you know that, hey, one thing that we also have in addition to our effort that's in our control is our attitude. And if we're dealing with challenges, having a bad attitude isn't going to make anything easier. And encouraging people to decide their mindsets. And the big one that I always tell people is try to go 24 hours without complaining and see how life feels. And I'm very big on not complaining, despite what's happening. Every day in my life is not a good day, but I promise myself I'm not going to complain, because complaining is not going to make it any better.
Well, you have a wonderful phrase that you use, trust your wings. You're encouraging people, don't be stagnant, that you should embrace change, even though it might be scary.
Completely. All growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And if you go to the gym, it's only a successful day at the gym if you felt some resistance and, you felt the challenge, and maybe you're in a little bit of pain afterwards. And it's the same thing with life. We don't like being uncomfortable, but our entire history of our civilization and our humanity and our species, the growth came from being uncomfortable, and we shouldn't shy away from that. And I'm not saying just, jump off every cliff you see. I'm saying even take baby steps, take calculated baby steps, whether it's meeting a new person every day. Mm-hmm. And if meeting a new person every day is too daunting, then maybe just saying hi or making eye contact with new people, instead of simply saying, hey, this is who I am. I'm an introvert, I'm antisocial, I can't talk to people. Or saying, hey, I'll never be able to, live out my dream of painting sailboats full time. And it's like, hey, maybe you don't have to paint sailboats full time. Maybe after work, you just got to spend an hour a day painting sailboats, and you'll get some of that satisfaction that you're yearning for. Mm. And it's really encouraging people to realize that, hey, sometimes when things don't work out, it's because we have very high expectations, but very low patience. And, we have to adjust that. And let's focus on making baby steps. We're here for the long run. All the changes don't have to happen overnight. But the one thing we can't do is continually avoid uncomfortable situations, because that's where all of our progress and growth exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I love listening to you. I have a hope for you, and maybe you're doing it already. I hope you find yourself onto the campuses around the country, around this continent, and can stand before bodies of students that need this message. And I mean that in all sincerity. I hope you can do that, and maybe not just colleges, maybe corporate gatherings as well. I could see both of those things for you. Is that ever something that you would like to do, and like be a presenter of sorts, but with kind of a hip you've got a hipness about you. Hipness, is that a word, Robin?
Yes, it is.
I love that she confirmed. Yes, hipness is a word.
So I think you make a big
a,
difference for the young people, especially.
Oh, 1,000%, and I find it, it resonates with everybody. But yeah, I mean, I get booked for shows. I mean, I get booked as a performer still. As I said, like this all came from me, quitting my job to try to become a full-time rapper and obviously hitting a wall. But yeah, I still perform at universities and I get a couple corporate gigs here and there. And I think now that the book is officially out on a big platform with a major publisher, I'm getting a lot more attention. So I do look forward to connecting with as many people as possible, doing more speaking gigs. And even when they book me to perform music, I have a couple of music performances coming up in a couple cities. I usually, my little intermissions in between songs are a lot longer than the average rapper. So sometimes I'll perform one song for 3 minutes and then I'll speak for 20 minutes. And then I'll be like, oh, wait, I got to get back to the next song. And the audience, they really dig it. And I've done performances for, middle school kids, high school kids, colleges, universities, and self-help seminars as well as corporate. And everybody's in the same boat. We all have regrets of our past. We all have anxieties towards the future. We're all happiest when we're in the present. We all sometimes think we're the only one going through the challenges that we're going through. And this doesn't matter what our socioeconomic situation is, what our religious beliefs are, what color our skin is, the type of body that we have, or what part of the world we live in. We're all in the same boat. And I'm just, in such divisive times right now, I'm just hoping that the human condition, the experience that we all experience, is something that can kind of bring us all back together.
Wonderful. Yeah. How do you, what did you do to believe in yourself, or have you always believed in yourself? Was it a natural thing, or did you ever have a time when you doubted yourself? And what did you do?
I still doubt myself today. I think confidence. I say in the book, confidence isn't a light switch. It's something that we build. And I always tell kids, I said, hey, if I get you on stage in front of 1,000 people and I ask you to do a speech, you're going to be very nervous. But if I ask you to go in front of 1,000 people and do the alphabet, you'll be a little less nervous. And the reason is you practice the alphabet. Practice is what builds that foundation. And, LeBron James may not be nervous and he's very confident in his basketball, but he might not be the most confident dancer because he might not be practicing as much. Mm-hmm. And practice, boring repetition is what builds confidence. And sometimes we want to skip those steps and just make it onto the main stage. And for me, it's the same thing. So as a writer, as a performer, I'm confident in these things because I've clocked in my hours. I've put in many hours performing on stage, many hours just writing drafts of my books and doing talks and doing interviews as well, and the first interview is always more nerve-wracking than the 1,000s. So for me, I realize practice is what builds confidence, and we can always increase our confidence. And anywhere we feel insecure, that's a sign that we should lean into it and spend more time focusing on that foundation.
Well, the good news for our listeners is you don't need to be in the audience. It would be nice if you're ever in our area. We'd like to come see you. But for now, we can just get a copy of the book. I see it's available on Amazon also as an audiobook. Are you the voice on the book?
I am the voice. It's read to you in my sexily, mumbly voice, which is bearded for your pleasure.
No, are you kidding? Everything about you is very much. I'm getting really good feelings from everything. All right, I have a copy of UnLearn. So call me right now, and I'll put it on the side for you and put your name on it. The rest of us have to go buy it. UnLearn: 101 Simple Truths for a Better Life. It's #1 on Amazon right now in some category. I can't remember which category it was, but. In the poetry, themes, and styles category. Wow, that's got to be a big one. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. Humble. Where'd you get the name from, by the way?
The irony of it was, in Sikh philosophy, which I grew up in, it says, your biggest enemy towards your peace is your ego. So the name Humble came from that. And rap
I like that.
I kind of use the word the poet as an elevation of rap. Because sometimes people hear rap, they don't really think of literary art, even though rappers are some of the most talented literary artists in the world. So I called myself the poet to let people know that we're here to evolve literary art.
The Bronx claims to be the birthplace place of rap. I don't know if you know that or not. So.
Oh, it is. I actually went to the apartment building in 5200 Sedgwick Avenue, and I paid homage. I actually went there, and they weren't very welcoming in the beginning when I first came, because they don't appreciate being seen as a tourist destination. And I actually had to rap for them to win them over. Once they heard me rap, they welcomed me with open arms.
And you got a really cool website name too.
Yes, humblethepoet.com. You can find the book there and a couple other creations that I do, and everywhere on social media at Humble the Poet. I take a lot of cool pictures on Instagram. I have the funniest, most entertaining tweets and the most random middle of the night tweets. So definitely follow me on there, and then Facebook, Snapchat. I'm doing it all.
All right, I will be doing all of that. That we got to know you. It was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Kanwar is your real name, right? Kanwar? Is that right?
Correct.
Kanwar,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. And we'll come back anytime. If you're ever in Florida, let us know.
Oh, I will definitely hit you guys up.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Here are today's headlines from The Source, WOCA. Florida lawmakers filed more than 3,500 bills for the 2019 legislative session, and fewer than 200 passed both chambers of the legislature before it adjourned its annual session on Saturday. The following is a look at some of the bills that succeeded and some of those that died. The bills that were passed include a $91.1 billion budget, a repeal of a smokable medical marijuana ban, the importation of prescription drugs, the creation of 3 new toll highways, a school safety bill that expands a program that allows teachers to carry guns into classrooms, a new school voucher program for low-income families, cancer benefits for firefighters, the creation of an agricultural hemp program, increased penalties for killing or seriously injuring police dogs or horses, a ban on childlike sex dolls, the right for homeowners to have fruit and vegetable gardens in their front yards, the implementation of a constitutional amendment that restores felon voting rights if they've paid all court-ordered financial obligations, new restrictions on people who gather petitions for proposed constitutional amendments, a bill to encourage vocational and technical training in high schools, a database of people who solicit prostitutes, making texting and driving a primary offense, raising the threshold from felony theft from $300 to $750, changes to a law that allow homeowners to sign over property insurance claims, and allowing self-driving cars to operate without a human backup. The bills that did not pass through the legislature this time around are the fracking ban, raising the age to buy tobacco from 18 to 21, parental consent for minors to get an abortion, allowing craft distillers to sell more of their product on site, asking voters to repeal the Constitution Revision Commission, asking voters to raise the threshold to pass a constitutional amendment from 60% to 2/3, requiring child care facilities to double-check that children are not in unattended vehicles, a specialty license plate that would have raised money for LGBTQ nonprofit organizations, and a requirement that child welfare workers better communicate with law enforcement. Ocala police are investigating the discovery of a body early yesterday morning during a fire. Ocala Fire responded at 3:30 a.m. to a fire at a structure in the 2400 block of Southeast 7th Street. Upon arrival, firefighters found light smoke in the garage of a home with no flames showing. Upon initial investigation, firefighters found the charred remains of a person inside the garage. Fire officials said without a structure fire to extinguish nor heat found inside the home, the scene was left with law enforcement for investigation. Ocala Police Department, the Medical Examiner's Office, and the State Fire Marshal also responded. Pilots of a charter jet that ran into a river at a Florida military base made a last-minute change to the runway where they would make a landing, a federal investigator said yesterday. The pilots on the Miami Air International plane requested the change to air traffic controllers shortly before landing at Naval Air Station Jacksonville Friday night. The 9,000-foot-long runway where the Boeing 737 landed was essentially limited to 7,800 feet since there was a wire barrier set up to recover Navy Navy aircraft in instances they could not land on a carrier during training, according to Bruce Landsberg, vice chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. Landsberg did not elaborate on the significance of the runway change, but said it would be a focus of the investigation. Fire rescue officials say a kayaker pulled a pilot to shore after the pilot's small plane crashed into a North Florida river. The Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department says the single-propeller amphibious airplane crashed into the St. Johns River in Jacksonville yesterday. The agency tweeted that the pilot was not injured. The pilot was the only person on board. The small plane crash came just 2 days after the charter jet carrying 143 people landed in the St. Johns River after arriving at Naval Air Station Jacksonville and skidding off the runway. There were no serious injuries in that accident involving the jet that was flying from a military base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Fire has damaged a new luxury adults-only resort in the Florida Keys. The pre-dawn fire yesterday burned sections of the bungalows, which had opened in December in Key Largo. Chief Don Bach with the Key Largo Fire Department told the Miami Herald that the resort's restaurant and upstairs section were torched. Bach says there were no injuries. The resort has 135 private bungalows situated throughout the 12-acre waterfront property. Some say it is free advertisement. Others call it highway litter or snipe signs. They are popping up all across Florida. The street advertisements known as snipe signs can be found littering many major roadways, and officials in the city of Tavares are moving to crack down on them. The city has won several beautification awards, and officials don't want the signs ruining that. Tavares spokesman Mark O'Keefe said the city's code enforcement officers removed the signs only to see them go right back up again. City Administrator John Drury and City Council members are having police issue $100 fines to repeat offenders. The city said they will be working the violation in slowly, waiting 30 days to let people get used to the program, followed by verbal warnings and phone calls, and then finally a $100 fine to chronic violators. Tavares police will call the phone number listed on each snipe sign to issue a warning. The number of cases of a drug-resistant superbug continue to rise in Florida and several other states, including New York. That's where U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer is calling on the federal government to declare an emergency.
We're here to say, now more than ever, with something as deadly as Candida auris,